drums. Show us what you got.
Program activated.
This week, the Marthythians watched Angels and Demons starring Tom Hanks. They listened to the album Violator by Depeche Mode. And also, they ate grape-flavored Laffy Taffy.
Hologram program activated.
Laffy Taffy.
Laffy Taffy.
It actually goes really good with this fruity fucking girly drink I've got going on.
Yeah?
Doesn't
Is that
go so
Uptown
good
Girl?
with this.
Uptown Girl. She's an Uptown Girl.
No, I'm in the street
Living in
kind
a
of girl.
downtown
world.
Is
That's
that how it
not the
goes?
words at all.
I think that we all know where that was going. Billy Joel would be proud. No, he wouldn't.
No, he wouldn't.
He would, like, if he knew this was happening, he would send us a cease and desist.
No, we only
Billy
do
Joel
80s
can
Billy
suck
Joel
my
covers.
cock.
Whoa.
I got escalated quickly.
Well, you know, sometimes needs to happen once in a while. Angels and Demons was not that bad of a film.
Right?
Nope.
But that's the thing. It just was not that bad of a film.
Was it better or worse than the Da Vinci Code?
It was definitely better.
Why?
Because the Da Vinci Code was so fucking boring.
Really?
Really?
Oh, it was unreal boring.
Really?
It was the slowest movie.
I thought it wasn't like super slow.
Tom Hanks
pace.
stands in a dark room and explains to you the plot. Then he moves to another dark room and explains the plot further.
But
That's
Amelie
what
was
the
in
Da
that
Vinci Code
movie.
was.
Sri and McKellen was in that movie.
Who?
Amelie?
Who?
Audrey Tautou?
Yeah, she's cute, but that doesn't, like, make the movie better.
I would rather watch something that starts with a guy writing in his own blood than Tom Hanks in a swimming pool.
Oh, he was ripping those lanes though. Like he was flexing it.
That was not Tom Hanks.
Something about Tom Hanks
What?
as
You're telling
You
me
think it was
those
a swim
muscles are
double?
not.
Music, movie magic. Oh,
That was
man.
good though. No?
What was that?
something about Tom Hanks just made him impossible to take seriously as, like, I guess I'm going to use air quotes, as like an authority figure. Because one of the main things that made me laugh when he's talking about saving the fourth cardinal, when he's telling the police, you could take me back to the Vatican, or you could be real police and do this. I just kind of went,
Oh, Tom
Right.
Hanks.
that's exactly what
Oh,
you
get out of here,
Forrest, you
silly.
silly.
And I just have a really hard time. That's fair. And I just have a really hard time believing that they would go, yeah, okay, I guess let's go wherever you want to go.
Right.
Even if he was an authority figure, I feel like they'd be like, well, we're kind of the authority figures here, and our boss told us to take you back.
But they got taken down so fast that maybe they were like freshman cops.
Their asses get handed to them. That guy was a pro, though.
Who walks up with a gun and when they're told don't shoot, doesn't try to shoot? Like, as a police officer, shouldn't you be, like, one of your first instincts would be to be alert? And the way that he snuck around that van made it seem like he was super alert, and he had his gun at, like, thigh level, and then the assassin comes out and says, don't shoot, be quiet. You could have still shot him in the leg. You could have still
Right.
done. I don't understand why people don't do more
You just
non-lethal shots.
And I found it, I mean, in the same part of the movie when he's lifting that cardinal out of the water in the fountain.
That made me not sad, but that made me emote.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't understand how they specifically showed that there were a bunch of people watching, and he's yelling help from a fountain,
Right.
and everybody just stands there and watches him like, oh, what's going on over
Well, that's
there?
the bystander effect. I
Like-
mean, it's been used as a case study and, you know, like a legitimate condition for years.
As if he's just yelling help, then nobody's going to help. But
I
unless you
think-
single someone out to help.
I think Italians just must be a bunch of pussies. I mean, they don't see the guy,
No,
right?
no.
But they see Tom, and so I would assume if I was watching that Tom is drowning because he's going help, help, and like, oh fuck. I
But if
gotta get
they're
over there and
Italian,
help.
maybe they don't recognize help as something to be attentive to.
Everybody knows the word help.
Or that desperate plea, that tone in his voice.
What if he's just drunk? How many drunks get in that fountain every day?
They might get a lot.
Still,
he could have been
if
fishing
a
for
drunk-
He
dimes.
could have been fishing for dimes.
If
Yeah.
a drunk hobo is drowning in a fountain, I'm still gonna run over there and help
One
that
less
fucker.
drunk hobo.
Whoa, that's
Sick.
cold.
I know.
I am harsh
Give me a
core.
break.
Harsh core.
Harsh core.
That's sad. That's sad.
Well, that's
I don't know.
Italians.
I mean, I think it was kind of obvious right from the get-go that Ewan McGregor's character was the bad guy.
Really?
Oh, I watch a lot of movies, though. My wife and I discuss this regularly, where I just always know what's going to happen in most movies. It's a very rare movie that surprises me. And, you know, I just kind of knew right away. I mean, you're not going to put Ewan McGregor in that role and not make him the bad guy. You're not doing him as an actor justice unless you're giving him more heavy. And so it was obvious, I think, right from the get-go. That being said, when he's falling from the sky in his parachute and he is all knocked out and he lands in the sea of people and stuff.
And like whoops a lady down.
I still was like feeling for the guy.
Yeah.
I knew he was I knew he was going to be the bad fellow.
But you were still rooting for him?
No, I just that was a big risk.
Oh.
It was a big risk either way. It was a big risk either way. I mean, there's no way he planned it out where he was going to go.
I disagree.
I'm going to fly this up in a helicopter and parachute down.
But he was the one who said, make sure you get the helicopter for the older Cardinals. I think that it was orchestrated the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
Because what better way to, if they didn't find the video, what better way to solidify yourself as a potential preferati than to go up, sacrifice yourself, be able to come down because the former Pope told you to get into the air part of the service of the military.
Right. Foreshadowing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it all kind of layered together. Now, I've read both the books, and I knew that he was the bad guy, but I had forgotten entirely about the video part. So as we got closer to the end, and there's the part where Skarsgård gives Tom Hanks the key, and I was like, oh, that's really weird. I wonder what that's about. And it never got addressed. And I had so forgotten that tiny little detail of that coming in.
Right.
That also makes it obvious. You know that when they break open the door.
Oh yeah, something just smells fishy about that whole scene.
Skarsgård is there with the guns.
Yeah.
And the look on his face, you know immediately that he's not the bad guy.
Oh yeah.
You know immediately. But I felt like it was obvious as soon as he came on screen.
I think they did a pretty good job of keeping that under wraps for the uninitiated who don't realize that it's Ewan McGregor and they're like, there's got to be more to this. But
maybe
if you're watching it, you're like, oh, okay, he seems like a pretty genuine fellow.
But there's some obvious things, like when he goes, and maybe I missed something else that was trying to disguise that. But when he goes, hey, if he was poisoned, what would happen, right? And he asks these questions, and he's like, hey, let's go check this out. But it was a specific poison that he was asking about.
Hey, what would happen?
No, it was medication.
If he was poisoned with this specific thing.
It was medication that the Pope was already taking. And the interesting thing actually to build on that was...
So he overdosed on the medication, is what you're saying?
Yeah, and it was Ewan McGregor that said... Oh, no, it wasn't. It was Skarsgård who said, yeah, the Pope had seizures and he was being medicated. That was being taken care of. That's not an issue. And that, I think, kind of ties in to the end because it means that Skarsgård knew that there was the video, but Ewan McGregor didn't because it was in the Pope's chambers. And if Ewan McGregor is supposed to be like the aide to the Pope, you'd think that he would be knowing everything, but I guess there were a few things that the Pope kept closer to the chest because I thought that it was the medication that he had overdosed on, and that's why it was so quick to be...
He overdosed himself?
No, he must have been given it. It must have been Ewan McGregor who did it.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really connect that. It's Skarsgård, by the way.
Sarsgaard?
Yeah, it's Stellan Skarsgård.
Stellan!
It's not... it's not Peter Sarsgaard. They have similar last names, Sarsgaard and Skarsgård.
Well, they make it just too hard. I mean, Dan Brown wrote the book. He could have made it literally anything else. But he made them so close. What?
Ooh.
Oh, I thought these
Oh, no, I've been mispronouncing the actor's last name the whole time. Richter. Was it Richter, his character's name?
Yeah.
The head of the Swiss Guard?
Commander Richter.
I didn't remember their two character names being that close.
No. Oh, no. I just keep picturing him as Orlando Bloom's dad from Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Oh, yeah.
But also like a barely there scientist in Thor.
Oh.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I recognize him. He's recognizable also because he's Scandinavian. And my wife is Scandinavian, so he's in Scandinavian
Films?
Yeah, I think he's Danish. I think. And it's actually, it wouldn't be Skarsgård because it's an letter.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird symbols in that name.
Well, they have 3 extra letters in Norwegian anyways. I presume they're also the same in Danish and Swedish, and they're hard for me to pronounce because they sound so similar to actual just letters. Anyways, the movie was all right. It was just all right. I mean, what I will give it, the sets were phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
There
I
was a
don't
lot
know
of
where
really
they
good
found
imagery.
those filming locations, because obviously they were not filming in the Vatican.
I just assumed it was in Italy, like in
Sure,
in
an old
those
school
locations.
church is an old school church, I think.
That's true.
If they're all from like the same maybe 100-year period, if they're all
to a lot of old school churches, there's a different grandeur in, say, a basilica than there is in a church or cathedral. And in North America, I don't know where there are any
they
basilicas
couldn't
like
have.
that.
Why would you bother filming something like that? When that movie was made, it was a hot commodity. There was like a
But what
4-year period.
What Catholic cathedral or basilica would allow you to film that film in there? It's not that it was overtly like anti-faith. I don't think that the books or the films are, despite some critics.
They're just books.
Yeah, and I think they're uneducated critics. Anyways, I think they must have been filming them in palaces and that kind of thing.
I found the filming locations. They did film some in Italy, and actually there was film from the St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican City.
Really?
And the Pantheon in Rome. So there was some authentic filming locations. I don't know how much of it. It could just be some like outdoor shots.
Maybe
but
just like stock footage or
Yeah.
even really, really pristine green screening.
maybe they combined it. I don't know.
You could do anything on that kind of budget.
Yeah.
If you can afford Tom Hanks, I think you can probably afford a little bit of green screening.
But the cinematography was really good. Like they'd sweep in there with some of those like grandeur shots with like the chorus going. Oh,
I really
it was
liked-
Ron Howard film.
yeah.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, he
Oh.
did
So it
Yeah.
becomes obvious at that point that it's going to have that kind of
Sleepy?
feel. Yeah, Ron Howard is a phenomenal filmmaker. But that being said, I really don't understand Ron Howard or Tom Hanks why they decided to attach their names to adaptations of these books. I mean, they made a lot of money.
It was a hot commodity.
I never pegged them for. I always thought
Maybe Ron Howard
Ron
lost
Howard
a
in
bet with
particular was an
someone.
artist, you know, and I don't think adaptations are generally art. They're paychecks, they're money movies. And Tom Hanks, he's a good actor. He's in a lot of really great films. I just look at the rest of his filmography and these don't stand out to me. I don't see them as being additions to his excellent resume.
Name another Ron Howard, Tom Hanks movie that was a gripping story.
Ron Howard or Tom Hanks
Both
movie?
together.
Well, I don't know.
Apollo 11.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and you think of that, that's a gripping story.
It's not an adaptation.
It's an adaptation of a true event.
Yeah, but that's a different thing. It's not an adaptation of a book. I mean, the Harry Potter movies are adaptations of books, right? They made a lot of money not because they were good films. They made a lot of money because
They had the following.
Yeah, because they had a lot of readers behind them. I think if you made those movies as original films, they probably still would have done well.
Well, yeah, the first
but
one.
not as well remotely, and I don't think they would have had the amount of films that they ended up doing. Is how many films did they do? It was like 8.
Oh, yeah.
8 films. There's no fucking way, not a chance that they would have made 8 Harry Potter movies if it was an original concept.
There was more films than books, wasn't there? Like
Only
they
one.
split up. Oh, okay.
Only one more.
Wasn't there?
Only one more
Oh, okay.
film
Only one
than
more.
books.
To be fair, it was because they didn't want to be taking too much out of the final book. So that's why they split it into 2. Although I know several
fucking
Harry
cares?
I don't blame Harry Potter fans, and I'm not gonna hate on the Harry Potter movies. Those
Good.
Yeah, no.
Angry face. Angry faced Megan.
I mean, you know what's interesting though? While watching the movie, I was kind of thinking to myself, Tom Hanks is a comedic actor, and then I went back and looked at his filmography, and he does have some really excellent dramatic roles. And I kind of forgot about them because I always kind of default to Tom Hanks as a comedic actor. I just presumed that right out of the gate. But he's one of those guys who's been able to go both sides because he's not
Tom Hanks goes both ways, is what he's trying to say.
He goes both ways.
Very well.
Thank you.
And his comedy is not like absurdist, over the top comedy.
Not Steve Martin comedy.
So you don't peg him like you do some other guys.
Right.
Steve Martin, though, I don't think that's fair.
Not anymore.
either.
I mean,
Hasn't
not
been
since,
for a long time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, he's not the jerk anymore.
He just plays the banjo
Hasn't been
now.
for a really long time. I mean, it's like Adam Sandler's not Billy Madison anymore, right? But
I
he
think that
hasn't been
depends who
since
you
Billy
ask.
Madison. No.
Not to say that it's good, but some people are just like, that's just what he is. That's all.
But he hasn't been, if you look at his new movies, they're like family comedy movies.
Well,
they're not
yeah.
Billy Madison. They're not Happy Gilmore.
What do you picture Tom Hanks in? Like, as
I don't.
when you picture comedy Tom Hanks?
Big?
Like, other than, I guess, Box of Chocolates, Forrest Gump.
I don't think that Forrest Gump is a comedy.
Well, he's
per
kind of
se.
funny in
It
it.
is
It's
funny.
It's drama.
It is drama.
It's drama,
It
but
is.
you're not like, it's not heavy, serious drama.
Vietnam was kind of heavy, but not when he was with Bubba.
And not the way that they portray it. Yeah, exactly. When Bubba blows his butt off and...
Yeah.
I mean, even
I
Lieutenant
was more
Dan's
thinking shrimp.
funny. I mean, he's got no legs. Is that funny in and of itself if I met a man with no legs? Not terribly funny. It gets pretty dark when he's, with his hookers and shit. And then, it's heartwarming when Dan's like, he basically says, you saved my life, Forrest, with the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company and all that shit. Yeah, there's the drama in it. But legless Lieutenant Dan in and of itself, when he's dragging his body across his living room throwing, liquor bottles, pretty funny. Pretty funny. Don't look at me like that. It's pretty funny.
Did you know that there's a third Dan Brown, Ron Howard movie coming out?
Yeah.
Is it the one about the other stuff? Because I read that book. No, I
didn't
listened to
even know.
it.
I
I
didn't-
listened to
Inferno?
it.
Yeah,
Yep.
I didn't even know. Like, I guess they must not be marketing it yet, and I didn't read the book yet. I read the other two books. I didn't even know there was a third book.
I listened to this one on tape doing a road trip, and it's been out for at least 2, maybe 3 years.
Oh, okay. So it's new-ish, but well, I hadn't read the Dan Brown books for years.
I just remembered what it
I
was
haven't
about.
read any of them.
It does
I've
not
never
have
read
much closure.
Oh,
Yeah.
spoiler! What if I wanted
Probably
to
'cause
watch
there's
this
gonna
movie?
be more. I've never read the books. It's not really my kind of book, I guess.
I had a coffee table version, so it was beautiful.
A coffee table version.
Yeah, I had the coffee table version of the Da Vinci Code and all of the art that gets referenced. There's big pictures, like replications of the art. So, it's kind of a nice... I think that something like that is a nice foray for people who are like, oh my god, conspiracy, it's going to be so... Oh, that's nice. Oh wow, that's a thing. And the idealist in me can only hope that somebody like totally sees one of those and actually invests the time in art. If you go and do a tour at the Louvre because you want to follow the trail from the Da Vinci Code, are you not still partially taking in beautiful art? Assuming you look at it and not just, oh my god, Tom Hanks was here, snap, snap,
That
snap.
is the wrong reason to go to the Louvre.
If it was what inspired you to appreciate amazing art,
Right.
And we talked about this last week. If Sum 41 inspires you to pick up a guitar to play those 3 chords and you turn into a legitimate classical guitarist, is there not still some merit in that piece of shit record?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's interesting because they interviewed some Catholic priests and whatnot in Rome, and they essentially said, yeah, we don't mind. It's going to bring people to the church. We presume that everybody knows that it's a work of fiction.
It's not their fault if they don't. If they really believe it. If you read a book...
It is entirely their fault.
So they turn to Christianity and there's one more Catholic against abortion.
No, I'm not. I don't have that. No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is it's
the conspiracy theories and stuff.
Yeah, it's their fault if they believe that Jesus was married.
Like the Illuminati.
Because they read a fictional novel, that's their fault.
But then they followed it up with Holy Blood, Holy Grail, and that thing's so wordy, it's gotta be true. Like Dickens.
They find all those conspiracy books like backing up all these wacky
I don't
theories.
watch fictional films and think, you know what? Captain America's pretty fucking awesome. I can't wait till I meet that real dude. I'm also not going to read a fictional novel and go, oh, conspiracy theory about Jesus being married and have kids? It must be true. Come on. I mean, you have to be more educated than that. Don't be.
Do you have to be, though?
Yes, you do.
Why? Why should I have to live up to your intellectual expectations?
Everybody should live up to basic intellectual expectations. And if
I don't
you can
think those
add
exist anymore.
2 and 2 and get 4, then you should be able to understand that fiction is fiction, not truth.
Well, Dan Brown, when he took all those Illuminati ideas and stuff, and I'm sure there's historical content behind some of those crazy stuff, but he just ran with it, and
good job. He did a good job of it.
It blew up. I keep saying it blew up. People ate it up.
Yeah,
it was the previous year's Kardashians.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, you got to give him credit. I mean, he did a really good job of it, of creating that narrative. It still is fiction. And when they interview the author himself, and he goes, "It's fiction, guys," and people are still like, "Oh,
"You're just being told to say that."
Give me a fucking break.
The Illuminati.
I was just going to say that.
What I do really appreciate about Angels and Demons, though, and what I really liked about it is, as opposed to when we watched National Treasure, and it totally supports, nobody watched National Treasure and went, "Oh, this shit's real, man."
I hope someone did.
I really hope someone
if you're
did.
out there,
I don't want to meet
thought
that
it was
fellow.
real, please call us.
Please give us a call. Tell us what you think about ancient aliens.
We want to know what you think.
Because we do exist. We are Marthyth, and we did help build the planet. In fact, we didn't help build the planet. We created you humans who built the planet on your own.
Good job.
Established the planet, not built the planet.
The fact that we seeded the planet kind of gives us a little bit of cred, maybe? I don't know. But anyways, what I was saying is that I did really appreciate about the film that it goes on this whole Illuminati, and keep in mind, I didn't read the books. It goes on this whole Illuminati conspiracy theory malarkey. And then at the end of it goes, no Illuminati. It's a bygone thing. The Catholic Church acknowledges that there is no more Illuminati. This is not. Because it
had been resurfaced by Ewan McGregor for this particular.
Yeah, purpose. But he fabricated it. He was a Catholic zealot, not an Illuminati member. There was no Illuminati. He was just a Catholic zealot.
You mean
he wanted the church to thrive because of this fabrication? There's no actual Illuminati.
Do you mean that in the movie, all of the events that were being blamed on the Illuminati, there was none? Right. Or in the entire world of history in that movie, there was none?
No. That in the events that took place in the movie and were blamed on the Illuminati.
Of course. No, I know what you're saying now.
That was a fabrication. But that, yes, the Illuminati existed at some point. And I don't even doubt that. That's, I don't think, a fabrication. There was undoubtedly a group of idiots
scientists who were like, fuck this shit?
Yeah.
Because there was, I don't think it's...
What, the Enlightenment? I mean, they weren't the Illuminati.
Just the ones who were constantly being killed just by the church just for having those ideas.
Were they the Illuminati? I mean,
I don't know.
Maybe they were now. Maybe that's what people are calling them. Maybe, after a certain amount of years.
I think the Illuminati is like the Masons or the Bilderbergers. It was a boys' club.
I want to know if anybody...
A secret boys' club.
Did you say Build-A-Bear?
Bilderbergers.
While we're talking about Bilderbergers, first off, does anybody know if somebody's making a chocolate bar called Illuminati? Because I want some of that. Additionally, I would like someone to open up a burger joint called Build-A-Burgers.
That's what I thought he said. Well, Build-A-Bear or
Build-A-Burgers.
Okay, so you're building hamburgers.
Build-A-Burg is, it's where all of the, top 0.1% get together and they schedule all of the world's events and they plan the news and all this, and it's called, the Build-A-Burgers. That's what they're called. But I want someone to make a burger joint where, it's all like political names or royalty names, I can't think of anything off the spot, but I am thinking about burgers now.
Coming soon to a city near you, the Marthyth Burger Joint Build-A-Burgers and the chocolate bar Illuminati.
Delicious.
Yum.
I am in. I can easily be happy the rest of my life only eating chocolate bars and cheeseburgers.
If any candy manufacturer is willing to make a chocolate bar for us, The rapper saying Illuminati. We'll sell it on our website.
Someone's got to be doing that.
No, you'd probably be assassinated in some mysterious circumstance.
Any Burger Baron restaurants that are hanging around, please rebrand to Build-A-Burgers and give us credit.
Toblerone made an Illuminati TV commercial in 97.
Illuminati.
Really?
No.
Oh.
When you type in Illuminati chocolate bar, you get Illuminati chocolate bar.
Oh.
And then it's reinforced by,
Why wouldn't Caramel do
DIY
that?
Illuminati candy. How to make creepy demon-themed candy. Put your cheese.
I would think
cheeseburger.
Caramel could do the Illuminati theme, right? Because Caramel is, nobody
no
knows
nuts in
how
there.
you get the caramel in the caramel bar.
I don't want to stray
It's a
from the
secret.
Illuminati.
And they've done like the hidden key and in the chocolate bar thing. They'd totally be on board
For sure.
Yeah.
We came up with it first, Caramel, so I'm going to sue your fucking ass if you even touch that idea.
patent pending.
Copyright Marthyth. Yeah, I mean, what I find interesting about that film was that I didn't feel quite as violated as I did listening to the album Violator.
You're supposed to.
It's supposed
She
to
says with
it's
a very
supposed to
cheeky grin.
violate your eardrums and then just make you feel. It just makes you feel.
Fun fact.
Yeah.
They named it Violator because it was the most uncharacteristic for what they had been previously. Because, Depeche Mode did I Just Can't Get Enough. When I love you, baby, I can't get you out of my head.
Yeah, super pop, yeah.
So they changed. This was different. And they thought Violator was the most heavy metal name they could come up with. To just say this is different. This is something else. They changed the whole way that they approached making the album. Normally, everybody has a role. This is what you're doing. This is what you're doing. You do your part. It comes together like a well-oiled machine. And this time they didn't do that. It was the first thing they had done in 2 years after extensive touring. Actually, allegedly, Depeche Mode partied harder than Metallica did in the early 90s.
Well, that's interesting because I read a little bit about them, and one of them was like battling depression. The other one was was an alcoholic and having seizures.
Yeah.
And then the other one was
Martin Gore.
had near death like drug.
Dave Gahan, the singer. The singer was a heroin
fucked
addict.
up dudes,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
But
They're
it
troubled.
was shortly after Violator came out, and Violator was so huge mainstream-wise that there was a riot in Los Angeles at a record signing. 20,000 people lined up around the block at this record store, and they had to shut it down, and everyone just exploded.
Really?
And I think it was shortly after Violator came out that Dave Gahan, the lead singer, shot a speedball and OD'd, and he tried to kill himself. Since then, as far as anybody knows, very cleaned up. Actually, just for the next record, Songs of Faith and Devotion, that came out, I think, maybe 3 years after Violator, he looked totally different. He had bulked up because he was actually eating. He grew out his hair. Songs of Faith and Devotion is the only Depeche Mode record that actually has their faces on it. So it's the only one.
That, yeah.
I'm sure that when the fans heard he tried to kill himself, they probably shed a lot of tears
panties.
because they had a lot of fear.
Were they
that
one of those
their-
bands that like the jokes were like all over them? Like
Some were. I mean, the new romantic period was really short-lived, and that's kind of where Depeche Mode started. I think with Violator, they really dug their hooks into the gothic scene. And I say that with a little bit of trepidation because Violator came out in '89, and the late 70s, early 80s is when a lot of like traditional goth music got rolling, and staunch goths are fucking staunch. So to have the band who did Just Can't Get Enough and that kind of like do that popcorn shit, to all of a sudden do a 180 and be like, yeah, Violator, pop the collar, drop the panties.
I never
just back it up.
I
You don't
never
even stand a
knew
chance.
that, like, because I would never really listened to Depeche Mode, so I had nothing really to base this on. This was kind of like my first real sit down and listen to an entire Depeche Mode album, and I really did enjoy it. And it was really like dark and kind of heavy, and like there was instruments all over. The soundstage was really good, but I never knew that they were like. Before that, they were really poppy.
They were
stuff.
super 80s. Like when you think of 80s and you put a synth in there, that's what Depeche Mode was.
They helped pioneer that new wave sound. And Depeche Mode, I made an earlier joke about, Tears for Fears, which neither of you seem to catch.
No.
So I'm just, when you listen back, look for it.
Are we going to shout and let it all out?
Shout. Yeah, I mean, the thing about Depeche Mode, I think they have some really great songs. And I think they have a lot.
This one had 4 singles.
Yeah, I think and all of them that I recognized, I mean, I'm like line 3 here, I haven't listened to a Depeche Mode album front to back. I'm familiar with the singles, quite familiar actually. There's a couple singles that I really love, but
and they get around and they've been covered infinitely.
Yeah, and they're familiar to me in that way.
As like a soundtrack to a decade?
Well, in a way though, because I think they're a lot more alternative, even in their poppier stuff. They're a lot more alternative than other new wave bands.
I think that's the heroin.
Which makes them more kind of groundbreaking and pushing the genre forward. That being said, I still can't, in a way, get away from how electropop it is. Even this album, it's so deeply mired in that sound,
the 80s sound.
Yeah, and I did listen to some of their newer stuff, and they haven't gone away from that. I find it interesting that they're a band who plays instruments, but I can't generally hear any instruments.
It's a lot of electronic instruments, but a lot of synths and stuff.
And I'll say this, I also respect most early new wave bands a lot more than modern electronic music, simply because making electronic music back then was a fucking job.
So different.
Entirely different. Sampling was not taking a digital sample and throwing it into a track. It was still analog recording. Like, it was all, the only thing digital was the synth itself, but the recording side of it was all analog still. So I give them a lot of respect for that. And the other thing about this particular album that I really appreciated was the fact that it's so sonic in a way, yet it's filled with void. You can listen to a song that there's never a moment of silence in the track.
So you can't enjoy the silence?
No.
Oh, nice.
You hear there's never silence in the track, but there's silence throughout the track. I don't know how they do that. It just feels like between each beat there's a void in there, and I give them props because I don't know how they did that. It just happened. I don't think they even intentionally did it.
It almost felt orchestrated to me. Like, well, it was orchestrated, but it was like really well done to me. Like, each song had like a flow and a feel, and it was really well done. Like, really put together. I did like that.
Well, you listened to the 2006 remastered, right?
I did, yeah.
Which I did as well. So it had some extra tracks on it.
Oh, I didn't listen to the extra tracks.
Oh,
actually.
Just the original 9.
Yeah.
I did though, and one of my favorite things about those extra tracks was Sibling, which is basically a classical track. There's no vocals, which is, after a number of songs, a reprieve, because the vocals get a little bit...
Oh, no. I could listen to Dave Gahan for the rest of my life. I listen to his solo stuff, but that appeals to the saucy, gothy nature that I do have.
But thinking back on New Wave, I really like this album, but I still think I'd rather listen to the Cars. I definitely 100% would rather listen to the Talking Heads.
But how do you compare? Those are so different, though.
I agree.
But they're all new wave, right? They're all new wave. Simple Minds. Let's go to even a more electronically kind of focused band, or Thomas Dolby or the Simple Minds. I'd still rather listen to those bands generally, or artists, than I would Depeche Mode. And I give Depeche Mode all the credit because they're very artistic. I don't feel like they compromised very much, even on their poppier stuff. I think they were doing what they wanted to do. I think just for like re-listening, for me personally, I lean more towards those artists.
I could listen to it. As soon as I put it in my car, I was immediately transported to being 13. And I was surprised at how organically all of the lyrics just came out of my mouth. Like, I found myself mouthing the words as I was cruising down the street, and all of the memories that music can evoke when you listen to it when you're at an integral phase. So I guess this is kind of my all killer, no filler.
You totally grew up that goth kid, didn't you?
I was always kind of a weird kid.
When you were a teenager and you listened to this album and it made you sad.
It didn't.
It didn't make you sad? It's meant to make you sad.
No. This doesn't make me sad at all. This makes me horny.
Oh.
Do you listen to a song?
Does the music make you horny, or does Gahan in a leather vest make you horny?
No, both of them. His voice is so
his chest
smooth.
out.
Yeah.
Tattoos everywhere. But it's the synthy part, like Blue Dress. Bow wow.
Oh, that was a cool song, yeah.
Bow wow.
Yeah.
Like I had to stop listening to it while I was driving because I wanted to put my arm back on my rest and just drive
Well, this is
all over the road.
This is back when and Depeche Mode did this well, back when they used the synth as an instrument.
Yeah.
As an instrument, not like modern music where
It's just
synth is just a fucking
rhythm.
tone.
Yeah.
Here's a tone.
No.
Here's a rhythm. They actually used it as an instrument, and I'll
There
give
were
them
so
credit
many
for that.
layers of it as well.
The synth in being a rock fan or a metal fan or whatever, I hear the guitar. The guitar is articulated and the guitar speaks to me. Synth, particularly in modern music, doesn't speak to me at all. But Depeche Mode makes the synth speak to me, and I appreciate that about it. So I'm not, in saying that I would rather listen to some other new wave artists over them. In no way, shape, or form would I say that I dislike Depeche Mode or that the album was generally excellent. There's a couple tracks that I wouldn't care if I ever heard them again. But when compared against their earlier singles, the singles off this album stand out way more. So it's definitely in my limited experience with Depeche Mode. I can't see them having another album better than this one.
I didn't know that I recognized so many songs off this album.
Yeah.
Personal Jesus has been covered infinitely.
When they came,
Enjoy the Silence, covered infinitely.
I heard them. I'm like,
Policy
I know
of
these
Truth,
songs.
I think.
I don't think I've heard that one covered.
Yeah, but I almost think it's the best single that they released off the album.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, Personal Jesus I enjoy, but it's got
kitsch now.
It's more radio friendly. It's got kitsch now.
But you
That's
need
a good
to
way
have
to
one.
Enjoy the Silence. Everybody knows
that
it.
song.
Nobody?
My husband, everybody does. My husband didn't know he knew that song.
Yeah.
Because he thought that he recognized it, I think, from Donnie Darko, but he didn't know any of the words when I sang it to him, and he didn't know that my favorite psychobilly band covered it on my favorite album by said psychobilly band. So I play it in the car, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's it." And I just look at him like, in the car, I just looked at him like, "You're adorable." I was interested how my favorite song when I was younger was Halo, and
that was one of my least favorite.
Oh,
Anyway,
really?
Yeah.
I liked it a lot because I was, an angsty goth kid in a small town.
Yeah.
It's not that I like it any less. I just feel like other songs stand out to me more as an adult.
I found it odd. I mean, I thought listening, when you look at the order that the singles were released in, Policy of Truth was released third.
Right.
And I understand 100% why Personal Jesus and
Which
Enjoy
has
the
a funny
Silence
story
were the
behind
first
it.
two released. But when I listened to World in My Eyes and Policy of Truth, I would have thought that they would have released World in My Eyes before Policy of Truth as a single. It seems obvious to me because Policy of Truth seems like that single that was the last one that they could make happen on the radio.
Maybe
It's my favorite one of the singles, but it feels like it was kind of should have been the last one that was gonna end that album before they went to the next.
Maybe they felt the same way and were like, maybe it's the weak link, so we'll put out two strongs, and we'll put out the third, and then we'll come home with
you think
World
they're
Through My
that
Eyes.
strategic?
I don't know.
For a band who, when they make every single record, says you do this, who pioneered the LP process of straight remixes, Music for Masses? Come on!
And the other thing I give them credit for is that they went on Mute Records, and when I was reading on their history, after they'd sent taken their demos in, because they went into each record company and said, "Listen to our demo," rather than mail out their demo.
Yeah.
And
then they said, "Well, leave it with us," and they said, "Well, it's our only copy, so kind of fuck you." And then they had these big money offers from major studios, and they went with like a startup. They went with like a startup record label, and that's an interesting choice to me. Obviously, they were very confident because they had the money offers.
Period, or for Violator?
No, period. They started on Mute, I think, which was a new label, and that label probably wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Depeche Mode.
Mm-hmm. Only takes one pony.
Yeah, one pony.
They rode that pony.
Yeah. I mean, Violator hit at the right time, I think, too.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of at the end of New Wave. They changed their sound at the right time.
It's just being influenced by that start of the kind of grungy movement, just a little bit. Like, I don't...
And they hit that dark emotion of the time, and which was grunge. I mean, grunge was largely dark.
It was just starting.
Mm-hmm. And you know, you listen back to grunge, to the grunge era, and it's pretty dark stuff. It's not like, it's maybe not heavy kind of like Depeche Mode is tonally, right? You listen to those grunge bands and tonally they're a little more elevated, but the emotion is pretty bleak. Well, and they hit that at the right time, whereas the 80s was like fucking cocaine and happiness. Yeah. And so they hit it at the right time. I mean, Depeche Mode, it's amazing how long they've gone, and the reason why they've gone so long, I think, is because they hit the right emotion at the right time.
And the record after this one, I think it's a little bit heavier, like it's a live album, so you don't have as much of the ethereal polish as you do on the studio record that is Violator, but it's got a heavier tone to it because it's more raw, I guess, is what I'm thinking. So, does anybody feel violated by the Laffy Taffy?
Violated by Laffy Taffy?
My gums kind of do.
It violates my teeth. It hurts my teeth.
It does kind of, because it's so sugary,
my
right?
Teeth. Oh, your teeth hurt.
But it's got a weird... it's got a... It kind of reminds me of the grapples with that powdery, purpley taste.
Yeah. It tastes super purple.
It does taste purple. It doesn't taste necessarily grape. And I mean, we talked about it with the grapply thing. It's because grapes aren't super flavored, but I wonder.
Right.
If we had Concord grapes, did those have more flavor? Because that's what Welch's is made out of.
Concord grapes.
Concord grapes.
That sounds fast for some reason.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke.
Concord
Well, Mitch is drinking a purple drink.
Purple drink.
Line 3, purple drink. Line 3, purple drink.
I got 2 fingers of scotch.
Purple drink.
Do you think what would happen if I dipped my Laffy Taffy in the purple drink?
Well, it would liquorify it.
It would probably make it harder because you got ice.
Liquorify, that's a good word.
You know what would have been a great idea? If you had have made a layered cocktail and then put the Laffy Taffy in as a stir stick. Because it was only going to get harder with the ice in your drink. And then, you're not going to have just a mouthful of vodka at the bottom and cranberry on the top.
And, oh man, we're coming up with a drink here. You put the Laffy Taffy in the drink. It slowly sugars the drink.
Would it? Like, if you... Could you flavor vodka with this Laffy Taffy?
Would it dissolve, though? I don't know that it would dissolve.
I don't know if it would dissolve because it's cold.
Slowly it would, yeah.
Would it?
Yeah, it's sugar and liquid. It doesn't matter how cold it is.
I don't know.
No, it seems to...
It does.
It's hard to chew.
It is. I'm eating it right now, kind of.
I pre-ate all of mine.
You were smart.
Do you know what I appreciate the most about Laffy Taffy?
It's not Airheads?
No, Airheads is better.
Is it less firm?
Yeah, it's less firm, and that's what's good about Airheads. It's not so much... Airheads is not so much taffy as it is soft candy.
You like
even old Airheads. The thing about Laffy Taffy is the older it gets, the longer it's been sitting on the shelf, the firmer it gets.
Yeah, this
Airheads
is weird.
does never seem to do that. It's always soft.
Do you like your taffy flaccid, is what you're saying?
Yeah, and I prefer most things flaccid.
Most things.
I just think what I like most about it is when you get a good full mouth of it, and then you can.
You hear that smacking?
Are you choking? Do we need to?
It's overwhelming my face.
Call 911. Call 911.
Where's the scotch?
I think it's stuck between your teeth, like when you try to pull your teeth apart, it's like glue, and it just.
That's what you like about it?
No, I don't like that at all.
That's taffy, though.
No,
All taffy does that.
I'm not a taffy, but
Macintosh taffy.
see, I consider that toffee, not taffy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is toffee, isn't it? Yeah.
But like even like the little soft caramel chews, those kind of do the same thing. You know, they sink into your teeth, and then you either have to just wait for it to dissolve. You've got to like suction your teeth out like denture adhesive.
Yeah, it's like getting your boots stuck in the mud. You just got
just like getting your boots stuck in the mud, but your teeth and sugar.
What I think though is that I like when the flavor hits the back of your throat.
Okay.
See, that's what happened to me, and it like overwhelmed my mouth.
When you get that burst of flavor in the back of your throat,
it almost sticks at the back of your throat.
It's sticky.
And it just sticks there. It just hangs out there. Yeah. And instead of that like familiar, burnt meat flavor that you get from, meat eaters, not vegans. For vegans, it's more sweet. But for Laffy Taffy,
what did I miss just now? Why are you talking about meat in the back of people's throats?
You missed some hardcore innuendos.
Hardcore.
Which is that's unusual because normally I'm right on that stuff. I'm all about the double entendres.
Gives you a back of the throat, kind of, it just hangs out there. After you're done eating the taffy, you still have that like flavor linger in the back of your throat. And reading on Laffy Taffy, actually,
you did some research on Laffy Taffy?
Yeah, if you Wikipedia it,
I would never do that.
They talk about its long-lasting flavor, and I think that's what it is that even after you're done eating it, you still experience the flavor of Laffy Taffy.
It just kind of sits there in the back of your throat and just burns. It's just
protest.
like,
it doesn't burn. It's sugar. Sugar burns?
I protest that it's called stretchy and tangy Laffy Taffy because it's tangy, but it is not stretchy.
It probably is old.
Laffy for me, taffy for you. I get it because you can share it. No wonder it's supposed to break in half so easily like a brittle old lady bone.
It's so clean. Like I broke it and it's such a clean break.
I know, right? That's happened to me a couple times. You know what this reminds me of?
That's why Airheads exceeds the quality of Laffy Taffy because Airheads remain soft.
The color reminds me of this. It's like a rehabilitation Play-Doh.
Okay.
And it's kind of stretchy, but it's very foamy. It's light and airy and hard.
Like
yeah, and it's for like you squeeze it in your hands as opposed to like doing vice grips so that you can build up muscle to rehabilitate your muscles. Like if you have a stroke or something.
If you're in rehab and you're like working out your arm muscles.
Yeah, like physio, less than rehab.
Before you were in radio, were you in like social services?
No, my grandmother had cancer.
Oh.
Thanks.
Why are we laughing? This is not something to laugh about.
No, but your awkward face and the group silence was.
Ooh.
If I took a drink every time we had a collective silence, I would be stone cold sober.
My grandma had cancer, but it was esophageal cancer. So I wonder if she chewed Laffy Taffy. It might have been rehabilitative.
Maybe, but it's the color, like the weird paley purple.
I deeply loved my grandma, so making fun of esophageal cancer feels bad, but it still makes me laugh.
Did you know? Fun fact of the day. Do you know why? Theme song.
Line 3's got a fact for you. What is it?
Do you know why it's called saltwater taffy?
I do not. Is that saltwater taffy?
This is not. This is just Laffy Taffy.
Oh, fuck that.
Yeah, but saltwater taffy, it's called it because one of the original places, I have no idea where they made saltwater taffy was flooded by the ocean. And it wasn't called saltwater taffy, it was just taffy. Once it was flooded, people started making a joke. They were like, oh, we're just gonna go get some saltwater taffy at the place that flooded. Yeah, you guys get it? And then it just stuck. Now it's called saltwater taffy everywhere. They put salt in it now.
They should.
Yeah.
Whatever.
There's nothing wrong with a little bit of salty and sweet, like peanut brittle.
Thanks for that nugget of knowledge.
That was less fun than I had originally thought it would be.
That's okay. The jingle is fun.
Actually. I never knew that.
I'm glad I didn't know it.
I just assumed it was like made with salt water somehow. So
well, now it is because of that.
Now it is.
Yeah. Indeed.
Oh, well, yes. Quite so. What else did I think about the movie? Because I wrote a whole bunch of notes, but we really covered a lot of it.
Talking about the album, I was reading the critical reception.
Sorry, I had a funny joke with myself.
Oh, well, share it.
For the longest time, Ewan McGregor, his title as standing pope
Ewan. It's Ewan.
is Camerlengo.
I thought it was chameleon.
Camerlengo.
Oh,
Yeah.
But for the longest time, and in all of my notes, it's Carmelingo.
Carmelingo.
Carmelingo. So as I'm talking about this Laffy Taffy sticking in my teeth like peanut brittle or like caramel, Caramelingo.
Caramelingo.
Caramelingo. You could make, on top of Illuminati, we could have Caramelingo. We could make a whole
good.
box of religious occult themed candy.
For anyone listening to episode 4, we released all 4 episodes simultaneously and then continued chronologically from there.
That's the word.
We already are monetizing our podcast with Illuminati.
With religious themed.
Caramelingo.
That's the one. I think that it should be
And
like a
something
wagon
else,
wheel,
I-
but with caramel.
I forgot the other one, but we've monetized it.
Karma.
The Build-A-Burgers?
Mealy.
Kind of fits, actually.
Carmelingo. No, doesn't work either.
Carmelingo.
I think it should be like a marshmallow patty
Yeah.
with that's like cut in half with caramel on the inside, and then sandwiched between 2 cookies, and then maybe dipped in caramel again or chocolate.
Now that's crazy.
But it's kind of like I'm thinking they make a snack cake that's kind of like it, but ours would be better because it would be bigger.
But with grape Laffy Taffy?
No taffy at all. Caramel.
Where did taffy
What?
come from?
Grape caramel?
No.
Have you ever had flavored caramel?
No.
That might be a good idea. Maybe we can monetize that.
Isn't caramel just darkened sugar?
Why would you want flavored caramel? Because that's just toffee.
Grape caramel? It's liquidy. Anyways, I just made this, personal note while I was reading the critical reception. Apparently, Rolling Stone magazine's Chuck Eddy said that the album's ambient charm,
Pin drop your panties.
despite the album's
Dropped my
ambient
panties.
charm,
Yeah, it did.
Gahan
How?
sounds slimy and self-involved.
Yes, he does.
But this is what I find interesting, because this is a Rolling Stone reviewer. He then says, Depeche Mode revert to Moreau's pop psychology and never tell you how come they're so sad.
I don't think
How
it's...
come? How come? That's not... Who says that in a review? How come? How come?
How come you
Your
so
issue's
sad?
not with
How
the
come
content.
you're so sad?
But maybe like a 5-year-old?
The grammar. The guy's a fucking writer for Rolling Stone, and he uses the phrase "how
The question.
come."
If you're a writer for Rolling Stone, is it more important that you're a writer or that it's for Rolling Stone?
You should
Can
be.
I put that out there?
But Rolling Stone is known for its
They have a name.
quality
They have
writing.
reputation to uphold.
It's kind of
As
like
a journalist?
yeah. It's kind of like Playboy. You buy the Playboy because of the naked girl, right?
No, I buy it
the
for
one.
the articles.
Yeah, but
There's
some
articles?
people, yeah, but that's the point. Is some people do write it for the
They
articles.
still make Playboys? I thought they
They're-
were
I don't think it's a thing anymore. Yeah.
Why would you bother if you've got
No,
the
they still
internet?
make it. They just make it without nude women.
Oh,
Are they scantily clad?
The point is, Playboy has had some skilled journalists.
okay.
So despite the fact that you're buying the magazine because there's a naked woman in it, they've had some actual, talented authors, talented journalists.
Yeah, I could see that.
And if you publish those articles outside of Playboy, they'd have a better following, they'd be more respected, etc., and so on. Rolling Stone, by the same token, has had, despite it being a music magazine primarily, it has had some very talented journalists. Yet, the guy who reviewed this album, which is a quality album, uses the phrase, how come? How come? How come? I don't know, it just takes me back to my childhood when a kid would say, I'm telling on my mom, and I would respond with, okay, what did your mom do? And why are you telling me? Because grammatically, I'm telling on my mom means that your mom did something wrong, and for some reason you're telling on her.
But how come doesn't sound grammatically incorrect?
It is grammatically incorrect.
Is it?
Totally.
Why for are they sad?
Why for?
Reader, why for are they sad?
Why for?
Now it
How
just kind
come?
of sounds Shakespearean now.
My
Why
first-
for how art thou so sad?
No, but that's
that
the thing.
works.
If somebody says to you as an adult, maybe I'm just a little bit of prudish in this sense.
He's so prudish with his language. Oh,
But
mercy,
if-
what for? How come?
If you make a statement to someone,
vapors.
if you make a statement to someone and an adult says to you, "How come?" Are you really going to hear them say "How come" and go, "Well, I'll tell you how come"? You're not. You're not going to.
I think if they only
idiotic.
said how come, if I was like, man, I'm so fucking mad. Well,
How come?
I couldn't even say it.
Okay, it doesn't sound serious.
But what else? Why for? I hope that I say why for. Why for you sad?
Why for?
Why for you sad? How come you sad? It's
Not
I'm
how come
sorry.
you're sad, just how come. How come you're sad?
It was
come
like
you're sad?
the one negative
sounds
review.
normal.
Why are you sad?
It was like the one negative review that they reference under critical reception, and I think, but the guy doesn't know basic fucking grammar, so who gives a shit?
Fuck this guy.
Like, if I was reading him review things and I read how come, I'd go, fuck, why did Rolling Stone publish this in
Cancel.
the first place?
Maybe.
How did they miss this?
No, maybe it wasn't missed. Maybe the editor was like, you know what? I fucking hate you, James Jones. I'm going to leave that. I'm going to change it to how come they're sad. So
It was Chuck Eddy, by the way. Anybody who knows Chuck Eddy or respects Chuck Eddy,
we are not amused.
We're gonna get some angry mail from Chuck Eddy. He's like, I'm
that
gonna
means
tell you
he's listening.
why.
fuck you, man.
That would be exciting.
That's what my editors are for, and they didn't do their fucking job.
Oh, I'm glad that I'm not involved in print media, because if I ever had a supplier, like a writer or a journalist, do something half-assed, assuming that I would pick it up, I would be just outrageously ticked off, and I would red Sharpie their face.
But if you wrote something, that's my challenge, and that's why I don't think I'd be good.
Taking criticism?
Well, I mean,
I don't
yeah,
know.
exactly. No, I'm not gonna. No, I'm probably not good at taking criticism. But that aside, if I was part of something where I was creatively, where I was responsible, or I was held responsible
chewy
by
and
someone
hard.
I know.
above me, I think that if they went through and they edited my article, they'd be like, "Fuck this shit. That's not what I wrote." I think
Edited
I'd have a charge.
or revised? Like, do you mean if somebody changed your content, or if they slightly restructured a couple sentences so it read smoother?
I think kind of both.
That's what an editor does. Like, his job is to do both.
Yeah, but
isn't
I don't
it?
like that. I don't like that. Mitch, you've read some of the half of a chapter,
Right, but I've
starts to a novel that
I never edited
began.
it.
No, I know, but I mean, I've had other people read them,
Mm-hmm.
right? For any listeners out there, I've never completed a novel. Basically, I have an idea. It's a pretty cool idea. I write it down. It's wordy and kind of odd in the way that I structure the language. I do that intentionally. Some people who have read it, who are avid readers, and they go, I don't know though. Sometimes it's a little bit the way you structure. I don't quite understand how you structured that sentence, and then I explain it to them, and I say, no, I think you don't understand the
wrong.
sentence.
You're reading it
And
wrong.
then I explain it to them, and they're like, yeah, they're reading it wrong, and I go, no, okay, this is how you're supposed to read that sentence. And then they go, oh, that makes sense.
See, now that makes-
I feel like an editor would go through and read that and go,
Yeah,
we need to change that because the average person's a fucking dumbass and wouldn't understand how it was written.
But
Yeah.
but that's the point. Like, they want to make sure that people understand, right?
That's true. The Rolling Stone selling 100,000 rags a month is way more important than your journalistic integrity of you're writing a certain way. That being, I think that there is something to be said for how a sentence is to be read. I personally feel. Let me straighten up so I can give you the full
Ooh.
breadth of this. I I personally feel that when you read Jane Austen, you have to read it like this, because all the sentences are quite so long and there's so much description, because Fancy is over there and he's wearing this darling little dress and he's going so much and he's dancing and dancing in the pump room and there's Jane Austen and you have to read it like this. If I don't read Jane Austen with that really, really bubbly cadence, I can't read it, because it just doesn't make sense to me. I also could not get through even a quarter of anything by Dickens, because there's just too much language for me.
Love Dickens.
There's too much language. Melville was the same way. I tried to read The Confidence Man because I knew it was a good book, but I could only get through maybe the first chapter, and it just became, my eyes just crossed. It just wasn't the medium for me.
There are some books that do that have that language that's almost a barrier, or you have to understand. When I tried reading A Clockwork Orange, have you tried? I don't know.
Not
if you
reading.
But the book is almost written like you need like a dictionary for these like terms and structures and stuff.
No, but that's what's so lovely about the English language. That's what I love about it. If you read Last of the Mohicans, it's almost in Old English. Like it's kind of hard to read. You begin to read the novel. And you're like, holy shit, I almost can't comprehend this stuff. The sentences almost, the period basically hadn't been invented at that point. The grammar, in a sense, hadn't been fleshed out as it is in our modern literary sense. But that's what I love about reading it. By the time you're 2 or 3 chapters in, you're like, I'm getting this shit. I get it. And then you read it as easily as you read modern novels. But I found that as a kid, right? You'd be in class and you'd be reading a Shakespeare play, and other kids in class, I found, would be like, get this fucking garbage. This is fucking stupid. What's he talking about?
I don't get it.
And the teacher, exactly. What's he trying to say? The teacher would say, what's the actual language indicating here? And I'd go, it's indicating this. And the teacher would go, that's correct. And the other kids would, I don't fucking get it. And I think put your mindset into that, and it becomes obvious. You read enough Shakespeare and it becomes obvious how he's speaking, in what ways he's sharing ideas. And I feel like that about classical literature. It's the same way. And I think some modern authors write in a similar method, where to the average reader who's just like reading 100 books, they might read it and go, what the fuck is this guy saying? I don't even know what's going on here.
It's their Pandorum.
Call back.
Yeah. The depth of the thing is what intrigues me, whether it's film or music or whatever. That's what I appreciate about the Depeche Mode album, is that the depth of the album is what intrigues me. It's not the fact that I can just consume it and move on to the next thing. It's the fact that every time I listen to the album, I'm pulled a little bit deeper. There's a little bit more to grab onto. And I think whether it's literature, film, music, whatever the art form, I think what draws me in is the fact that there's more depth to be had. There's more to find. And so that's what that's how I feel about the bullshit review in Rolling Stone about.
I was trying to think, how did we even get onto books?
Yeah.
And it wasn't even a tangent of, well, we watched a movie based on a book, which wasn't, anything special in regards to how it was written. If anything, I think it was the mystery aspect that drove a lot of people. And of course, the idea that there's a giant conspiracy that's been going on through the whole of Catholicism. It's just so terrible.
People love that shit.
That's
why there's
right?
like hours on YouTube. You can like find out eventually that the Illuminati took down the Twin Towers. Like, there's so much of that.
If you want to get into conspiracy about Catholicism,
don't.
No, it's really easy. I'm just going to lay it out for you in basically one sentence. The Roman Catholic Church was established by the Roman Emperor Constantine. That's when the Roman Catholic Church was established. Some 350 years after Christ. That's when the Roman Catholic Church was started. They claim history for the 350 years prior. The Catholic Church does. They say, we know the facts of 350 years prior to when the actual Roman Catholic Church was established. That's the bulk of the conspiracy. The Catholic Church claims history for 350 years in which it did not exist as an entity. That's as much conspiracy theory as you can get out of that. That's it. That's where it ends. The rest, all of it is recorded history. All of it is laid out. All of it can be corroborated by Roman history, by surrounding cultures. The Roman Catholic Church was established around 350 BC with, I'd have to find the exact year, with Constantine I. And that's it. That's it. The rest is recorded. History is relatively accurate. The only way you get around that is if you're one of these nut jobs who goes, history is created by the victor. There's no fucking nut job, whack job stuff about it. But the movie was still interesting. It was a fun watch.
I find it strange how a conversation on Catholicism has made me crave fried shrimp.
Fried shrimp? How so?
Yeah.
Explain.
Well, something about the concept of cherry-picking parts from his religious text to support your arguments.
Right.
And, well, you're not supposed to wear blended fabrics, and you're not supposed to eat shellfish, and the shellfish one just always sticks out in my mind, right? And I don't remember...
Shellfish?
Yeah, and the...
Pork? Shellfish?
Either. Pork is exceptional for the Jewish faith because it's what
Where's
the demons
shellfish?
were. I don't know,
Okay.
but it's a common statement used along with the thing, blended fabrics and pigs and stuff and cherry picking ideas. And obviously, if someone's cherry picking ideas, they don't have a whole.
Right.
This is exactly the psalm that I'm pulling it from because that would be constructive. It doesn't make me want fried shrimp any less.
Yeah.
So why do you want fried shrimp?
It just
Fried shrimp?
It just popped into my mind as you were spieling.
I love fried shrimp. It's so fucking good.
I could eat a whole freaking tube
Batter?
of those things. Well, no, not the fried
Tray,
ones. The tray.
just like a cocktail tray.
cocktail tray. Yeah.
Battered
Tray.
fried shrimp.
Where can we get some fried shrimp right now?
Oh, fuck. Let's go get some. Yeah. I like what you said, though. Anything, it doesn't matter what it is. Anything taken out of context is fuck you bullshit, I think.
Fuck you, bullshit.
Fuck you, bullshit.
Wait, are you yelling at someone whose name is bullshit?
No,
Hey, bullshit! You over there! Mr. Bullshit!
She was pointing
Fuck you.
at line 3, so I assume she...
I'm pointing past line
Yeah, she's
3.
pointing over there.
I'm pointing at the nudie in the saddle.
Shit. Road to Saddle River. We talked about this, not on air.
No, not
before.
on air. Last week.
If any of you get a chance to contact Francis Danberger and watch the Canadian classic film Road to Saddle River, please do so.
Francis Danberger.
Francis Danberger.
That can be part of the Build-A-Burger.
Yeah, anything taken out of context.
Build a Danberger. Build a Danberger.
Fuck you.
Build a Bob's Burger.
And, just to end things off, if any of you take Marthyth out of context, fuck you, man. Fuck you.
We have context?
Not really.
Hologram program deactivated.